The private dining room at Laurent's was decorated exactly how Mom always dreamed: crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, and a view of the city skyline that cost extra. My sister Victoria had made sure everyone knew she'd planned everything. She'd sent a family group chat with the bill breakdown, highlighting her $8,000 contribution in bold. My contribution was listed as 0. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing a simple black dress I'd bought 6 years ago. Mom hugged me at the door, but her eyes were already scanning the room, looking for Victoria's grand entrance. "Sweetie, you look nice," Mom said, which was her polite way of saying I looked poor. I'd gotten used to that tone over the years. Ever since I'd dropped out of the family real estate business to find myself, they'd written me off. Victoria had stepped right into my place, becoming Dad's protégé before he passed. Now she ran Henderson Properties with Mom as the silent partner. Or so they thought. The guests arrived in waves: aunts, uncles, cousins, Mom's country club friends, and business associates. Everyone was dressed in designer labels, dripping in jewelry, talking about their summer homes and European vacations. I sat at the far end of the table, the seat closest to the kitchen door. The unimportant seat. "Is that the same dress from Christmas?" my cousin Jennifer whispered loud enough for the whole table to hear. Bless her heart. Victoria made her entrance at 7:30 sharp, wearing a red Valentino gown and carrying a Hermes bag that cost more than most people's cars. She kissed Mom dramatically on both cheeks and placed an enormous wrapped box at the head of the table. "Mom, I wanted tonight to be perfect for you," Victoria announced, her voice carrying across the room. "So I have a very special gift planned for later." Everyone applauded. I sipped my water. The dinner service began and I had to admit the food was incredible. Laurent's was known for having the best French cuisine in the city. I'd always loved this restaurant even before I bought it. "So, how's your little situation going?" my Uncle Richard asked me between courses, the way you'd ask someone about a chronic illness. "My situation is going well, thank you," I replied. "Still living in that studio apartment downtown?" Victoria cut in, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Mom and I were just saying we should help you find something bigger. Maybe a 1-bedroom. I'm comfortable where I am." "Of course you are," Victoria said, patting my hand like I was a child. "Some people are just meant to live simply. There's no shame in that." The table nodded in agreement. My Aunt Patricia actually said amen under her breath. When dessert was being cleared, Victoria stood up with her champagne glass. "Before we bring out Mom's cake, I want to do presents." She gestured dramatically and 2 waiters brought out her enormous gift box. Mom opened it to find a custom diamond necklace, a first-class ticket to Paris, and a folder with papers inside. "I've also arranged for you to be the guest of honor at the Chamber of Commerce Gala next month," Victoria announced. "As the co-owner of Henderson Properties, you deserve to be celebrated." The room erupted in applause. Mom had tears in her eyes. "Victoria, this is too much." "Nothing is too much for you, Mom." Victoria hugged her, then turned to face everyone else. "Now let's go around the table and everyone can give their gifts." My stomach tightened. I knew what was coming. One by one, relatives presented their gifts. Expensive jewelry, gift cards to luxury stores, spa packages, designer handbags. Each gift was announced with flourish, and Mom graciously accepted everything. Finally, Victoria's eyes landed on me. "And what about you?" she asked, her voice sweet but her eyes sharp. "What did you bring for Mom?" The table went silent. Everyone turned to look at me. "I have something," I said quietly. Victoria's smile widened. "Oh good. We were worried you might have forgotten. Or couldn't afford anything." Nervous laughter rippled around the table. "You didn't even bring a gift?" Victoria's voice suddenly rose, and she gestured at the empty space in front of me. "Everyone here brought something meaningful and you show up empty-handed?" My face burned. "I didn't say I forgot." "It's okay, honey," Mom interrupted, her voice full of pity. "We understand you're going through a difficult time financially. You don't have to." "She could have at least brought a card," my cousin Jennifer muttered. "Or baked something," my Aunt Patricia added. "That's free." Victoria leaned back in her chair, her expression a mix of triumph and fake sympathy. "You know, I've been thinking. Maybe it's time we had a serious family conversation about your situation. Mom's been supporting you emotionally for years, and you can't even manage to." Actually, I interrupted, my voice calm and clear. I did bring a gift. I smiled and nodded toward Marcus, the head waiter who'd been serving us all evening. He was standing near the wall, and when he caught my eye, he nodded back. Marcus walked over and placed a manila envelope on the table in front of Mom. "What's this?" Mom asked, confused. "Open it," I said. The table watched as Mom's trembling fingers opened the envelope. She pulled out the papers inside, her eyes scanning the first page. Her face went completely white. This is a property deed," she whispered. "Yes," I said. "For Laurent's restaurant." "Yes." Victoria leaned over to look. "What are you talking about? Is this some kind of joke?" Mom kept reading, her hands shaking. "It says here that the owner of Laurent's restaurant is Sophia Marie Henderson." She looked up at me. "That's you." "That's me," I confirmed. The table erupted in confused chatter. "That's impossible," Victoria said, her voice rising. "You don't own this restaurant. You can't even afford." "Keep reading, Mom," I said gently. Mom flipped through the pages. There are multiple properties listed here. The building at 425 Madison Avenue. That's the Henderson Properties office building. Victoria's face drained of color. "What?" "The Preston Tower," Mom continued, her voice getting higher. "The Riverside apartment complex. The Grandview shopping center." She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face now, but different tears than before. "Sophia, how many properties are listed here?" 48, I said. "Including this restaurant." The room had gone completely silent. You could hear the kitchen staff working in the back. But how?" my Uncle Richard finally asked. "How is this possible?" I took a sip of my water before answering. 8 years ago, when I left Henderson Properties, everyone assumed I was having some kind of quarter-life crisis. And I let you think that. Victoria was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. "What I was actually doing," I continued, "was starting my own property acquisition company. I called it Sterling Holdings. I kept it quiet. I used a business name that wasn't Henderson. I worked from home. I dressed like I was broke." "Why would you do that?" Mom asked. "Because Dad taught me something that Victoria never learned," I said, looking directly at my sister. "He taught me that the best business deals happen when people underestimate you." I gestured around the room. While everyone pitied me, I was buying properties that people didn't think I could afford. I started small, a duplex here, a small commercial building there. I renovated them. I flipped some. I kept others. I reinvested every dollar. "The Henderson Properties building?" Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. "I bought it 3 years ago when the previous owner went bankrupt. You've been paying rent to me every month. Your checks are signed to Sterling Property Management." Victoria's face had gone from white to red. "You've been lying to us for years." "I've been working," I corrected. "You assumed I was failing because I wasn't bragging about my success." Mom was still staring at the property deeds. 48 properties. "Sophia, this is worth about $380 million, I finished. "Give or take." Someone gasped. I think it was my Aunt Patricia. "But you live in that tiny apartment," Jennifer said. "You drive a 12-year-old car. You dress like someone who's focused on building wealth instead of showing it off," I said. "That apartment costs $600 a month because I own the building. I pay myself rent. The car is paid off and runs perfectly. Why would I waste money impressing people who'd already decided I was a failure?" Victoria stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "This is insane. You've been making us look stupid." "No, Victoria. You've been doing that on your own." Mom was crying openly now. "Sophia, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let me think you were struggling?" "Because I needed to know who I was without the Henderson name," I said softly. "And I needed to see who in this family actually cared about me when they thought I had nothing." The silence that followed was deafening. "There's more," I said, pulling out my phone. I opened my banking app and turned it toward Victoria. "See this trust fund? The one Dad set up before he died." Victoria's eyes widened as she recognized the account number. "Dad didn't leave it to both of us equally," I said. "He left me as the primary trustee with you as the beneficiary. The $50,000 you've been withdrawing monthly? That's been coming from me approving each transfer. No, Victoria breathed. That's my money. Dad left that for me. Dad left $2.3 million in trust for his daughters, I corrected. With me in control of how and when it gets distributed. Your name is on the account, but I'm the one who's been approving every single withdrawal you've made for the past 5 years. Victoria looked like she might faint. Mom, did you know about this? Mom was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. No. Your father never told me the details. He just said he'd taken care of both of you. He did, I said. He taught me how to build something real. And he made sure Victoria would be taken care of, even if she never learned to stand on her own. I stood up and straightened my 6-year-old dress. As of tomorrow morning, Victoria, your access to that trust fund is suspended. You've withdrawn $3 million over the past 5 years. Far more than Dad's original amount. I've been supplementing it from my own accounts because you're my sister, and I thought eventually you'd learn to manage money. You can't do that. Victoria screamed. Actually, I can. I'm the trustee. And after tonight, after watching you humiliate me in front of our entire family for entertainment, I'm done. I picked up my purse and turned to Mom. Happy birthday, Mom. The restaurant is yours if you want it. I'll have my lawyer send over the transfer papers. Or you can sell it. It's worth about $8 million. Mom opened her mouth but no words came out. I looked at the stunned faces around the table. Dinner's already paid for, by the way. I own the restaurant, remember? So please enjoy the rest of your evening. I walked toward the door but Victoria's voice stopped me. Wait. Sophia, please. I'm sorry. I didn't know. That's the problem, Victoria. You never wanted to know. You never asked about my life unless it was to compare it to yours and feel superior. I turned back one last time. For the record, I didn't buy these properties to spite you or to prove anything to this family. I bought them because I love real estate. I love renovating old buildings and giving them new life. I love creating spaces where people can live and work and build their own dreams. But you let us think, Uncle Richard started. I let you reveal who you really were, I interrupted. And now I know. I walked out of Laurent's restaurant, my restaurant, and into the cool night air. My phone was already buzzing with texts and calls but I silenced it. Tomorrow I'd deal with the aftermath. Tomorrow I'd meet with my lawyers about the trust fund restructuring. Tomorrow I'd decide what to do about the properties and my relationship with my family. But tonight I drove my 12-year-old car back to my $600 a month apartment in the building I owned, ordered Chinese takeout and watched my favorite show. Because I'd learned something that Victoria never would. Real wealth isn't about impressing people at birthday dinners. It's about building something that lasts even when no one's watching. 3 days later, Mom called. She'd been trying to reach me nonstop but I'd needed space to think. Sophia, please. We need to talk. I met her at a coffee shop I didn't own just to keep things neutral. She looked like she hadn't slept. Your sister is devastated. The whole family is in shock. I imagine they are. Why didn't you tell me? All these years I thought you were struggling. I worried about you constantly. Would you have worried if you'd known the truth? I asked. Or would you have just treated me the same way you treated Victoria? Showing me off to your friends, using my success to boost your own status. Mom flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? Mom, when was the last time you asked me about my life without comparing it to Victoria's? When was the last time you seemed proud of me even when you thought I had nothing? She was quiet for a long time. Finally she whispered, I don't know. That's why I didn't tell you, I said gently. I needed to become someone I was proud of, separate from the Henderson name and expectations. And I did that. The restaurant, Mom said. Did you mean it? About giving it to me? Yes. It's yours if you want it. But Mom, I'm not trying to buy your love or approval anymore. I'm giving it to you because it's your birthday and because despite everything you're still my mother. Mom started crying again. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm sorry for every time I made you feel less than. For every comparison. For not defending you at dinner. I forgive you, I said. But things are going to be different now. Different how? No more pretending. No more letting Victoria or anyone else treat me like I'm worthless. And no more funding Victoria's lifestyle while she treats me like garbage. She wants to apologize, Mom said. She's been trying to call you. I'm sure she has. especially now that her trust fund is frozen. Sophia, she's your sister. And she humiliated me in front of 50 people for sport, I interrupted. An apology doesn't fix years of cruelty, Mom. She's going to have to prove she's changed. And that's going to take time. Mom nodded slowly. What about the family business? Henderson Properties. What about it? You own the building. You could take it over. Run it yourself. I smiled. I don't want Henderson Properties, Mom. I have Sterling Holdings and it's doing better than Henderson Properties ever did. Victoria can keep running it. But she'll be paying me market rate rent from now on. No more family discounts. That seems fair, Mom admitted. We talked for another hour. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation, but it was a start. Mom took the restaurant deed and promised to think about what she wanted to do with it. As for Victoria, she eventually did apologize, 3 weeks later, after the trust fund suspension forced her to actually look at her finances and realize how dependent she'd become on money she'd never earned. The apology came via a handwritten letter, not a text. That was a start. I didn't restore her trust fund access immediately. Instead, I offered her something different. A job. A real job with a real salary, working in property management for one of my buildings. She'd have to start at the bottom and work her way up just like I did. She hasn't accepted yet. But she hasn't said no either. Because here's what I learned over 8 years of building my empire in secret. Success isn't about the moment everyone finds out how well you've done. It's about all the quiet moments before that, when you're working while everyone else is sleeping, when you're saving while everyone else is spending, when you're building while everyone else is bragging. The reveal at Mom's birthday wasn't revenge. It was just the truth finally catching up to the lies everyone had been telling themselves about who I was. And sometimes the truth is the most powerful gift you can give. Even if it doesn't come wrapped in a designer box.